you've got anterior pelvic tilt, there's a possibility it could be limiting your mobility and contributing to aches and pains. And by correcting it, you'll learn a more efficient way to produce force so that you can make gains with mobility and strength. Now in this video, we're going to learn what anterior pelvic tilt is, what the most common cause of anterior pelvic tilt is, how to determine if you have it, and then we'll go through a simple corrective exercise routine that you can use to make gains in mobility and strength. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So what is an anterior pelvic tilt? So we've got my buddy Mr. Phibbs here to help us demonstrate. An anterior pelvic tilt is simply when the top half of this pelvis moves forward in space relative to the bottom half of this pelvis more than the normal 4 to 10 degrees. And now more important than this static position that you'd see in standing, for example, is really how we're using anterior pelvic tilt as a strategy during movement. So the most common cause of anterior pelvic tilt is that we're using it to get force down into the ground as a substitution for using our leg and hip muscles effectively. Now in some cases, this strategy is completely normal, but in many cases, it can actually limit our mobility and in the long term could contribute to aches and pains. So by addressing anterior pelvic tilt, you'll learn a way to produce force in a way that's more efficient, that doesn't sacrifice mobility, so that you can progress mobility and strength at the same time. Now, one of the problems with anterior pelvic tilt is that it's actually pretty hard to assess visually. A lot of people have this obvious anterior pelvic tilt, which you can see, but a lot of people, it's actually more subtle, and it might only come out during movement. So if you have a trained eye and you know what to look for, you can oftentimes spot this, but for many of us, it's going to be difficult to spot. So a better way to test this, even for a trained eye like myself, is to use movement-based tests that help us to infer muscle activity and behavior, and then demonstrate why we might be seeing certain limitations. So I know that sounds pretty complicated, but in this video, you're going to learn 2 simple tests that you can use to determine if you have anterior pelvic tilt, and better yet, can also use to measure your progress. So if these are limited in the beginning, then you probably have anterior pelvic tilt. If you then go through the simple exercise routine that we're doing in this video, you should see an improvement. If you're not seeing an improvement, then you're probably not doing the exercises correctly. You need to go back through the cues and make sure to brush up on your technique. Now, the reason these tests are limited in an anterior pelvic tilt are for 2 reasons. One is the way that the bones change position and actually block movement at the hip. And the second is how muscle behavior changes when we're in that anterior pelvic tilt position, which then limits our ability from a soft tissue perspective to be able to move this hip into various positions. So the first test you're going to do is seated hip external rotation. And that's going to be bringing the knees in front of the hips and then swiveling one foot in front of the opposite shin and then getting a rough idea for the angle. So as you're doing this, you should be able to maintain the rib cage over the pelvis. So if you're doing this and then you see any sort of weird tipping to one side, then the test is definitely over at that point. But if you're strict with the knee staying in front of the hip, you swivel that foot in front of the opposite shin, that should give you a read on your hip external rotation. So if you're anywhere between about 40 to 60 degrees, you're probably okay. If you're any less than that, then you probably have an anterior pelvic tilt. You want to check this on both sides as well. Oftentimes you'll have one side limited and the other side normal. That just likely means you have more of an anterior pelvic tilt on one side than the other. So once again, bring the foot in front of that opposite shin. We get a rough idea for the amount of motion there. And then you're going to monitor that so that after you do these exercises, you should see an improvement in that motion closer to that 40 to 60 degrees. And then the second test we'll be doing here is the knee to chest or supine hip flexion test. And you'll lay back flat like this with your feet pointing straight up. Foot, knee, and hip are going to stay in alignment throughout the entire test. And there's some criteria here for when the test is over. So we're bringing that knee up towards the chest, and we're going to stop the test when we see any one of the following. So if we see this opposite leg start to lift up, or we see that the back here presses down into the support surface in a really obvious way, test is over. And then in terms of the alignment of this leg that we're testing, if we see that knee coming out to the side or the foot coming in, that's also when the test is over. So we're bringing that knee up towards the chest, and a normal measurement here will be about 120 to 125 degrees. That's considered full textbook hip flexion. Now, if you're in that ballpark, let's say 115, 120, 125, then you're probably okay. You probably don't have much of an anterior pelvic tilt. But if you get stopped, let's say around this 90-degree position, or just shy of it, or just beyond it, then you're probably dealing with some anterior pelvic tilt. And again, you want to check both sides because you might have a discrepancy where one can move up into that 120-degree range, no problem, but the other side is limited. And again, that's just indicative that you have an anterior pelvic tilt more on one side than another. And then you'd want to use this test just like the other test, testing beforehand, establishing a baseline, do the exercises, and then you should see an improvement if you are in fact doing those exercises correctly. If you're getting value from this video so far, consider liking it, or if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. All these things help the algorithm to help me help more people. So this first activity is just going to be a hook lying pelvic tilt. And the idea here is to use the back of the legs, hips, and abdominals to do a very subtle tucking back of the pelvis. So we said that our anterior pelvic tilt is when the top half of the pelvis moves forward relative to the bottom half of the pelvis. So to do this subtle posterior pelvic tilt, we're going to think about just relaxing that upper half of the pelvis as we push down with the feet to engage the back of the legs and the hips. And we're going to gently pull that lower abdomen in from all directions to encourage that back part of the pelvis, the upper half that is, to gently move back towards the support surface. Now, if you start feeling your low back pushing down into the support surface or a lot of cramping in the hamstrings, then you're probably overdoing it with the tuck. So you want to go subtle here, pushing straight down through the feet, making sure you have even pressure, and then subtly pulling in your abdomen as you get the top half of that pelvis to just relax back towards the support surface. Then once you're here, you can do some gentle breathing to reinforce that position, or you can do it with repetitions. So if you're doing it with repetitions, what I would do is just shake it out, start in your normal position, exhale, push down as you tuck back. Then inhale to return to the starting position, and then repeat. Exhale, push down, tuck back. Inhale, return to the start. Now, as a progression from this, what you want to be able to do is start to engage the legs and the hip muscles a little bit more while still having that position of the pelvis in neutral versus an anterior tilt. So we're going to start with the same steps that we went through for the last activity, pushing down with nice even foot pressure. We're going to exhale as we do that, bringing the top half of the pelvis back relative to the lower half. Feel those low abs pull in just a little bit to help with that. Then once we're in this position, we're going to take a nice easy breath in through the nose. And then once again, we're going to push down with the feet. But this time, we're going to lift the pelvis, the spine, and the rib cage all in alignment off the support surface so that most of the movement here is happening at the hips. The hips here will be moving into extension. And to make this effective, you want to make sure that the knees are in line with the hips, and that the knees don't deviate outwards or inwards, but instead hold their position through the entire activity. So we'll inhale here. We have that nice subtle tuck. We're going to exhale, push down, lifting pelvis, spine, and rib cage together. Maintaining knee position, nice flat pressure in the foot. Then we'll inhale to return and exhale as we lift. And once again, inhaling, exhaling. Remember to check the amount of arch in your back as you're doing this. So if you're coming up and you're doing too much of an arch here, you're just going to go back into that anterior pelvic tilt. So if you feel like that's happening at a certain part of the motion, then only use the range of motion that you can use without that happening. Now, once you have the hang of getting that neutral pelvic position and then moving at the hip and leg, we need to then work on this in standing. So to perform this activity, what we're going to do is first practice getting into a neutral position in the pelvis. Then we're going to practice moving at the hip to engage the muscles of the leg and hip without compensating back into that anterior pelvic tilt. So to do that, we're going to establish nice even contact in the feet with the majority of pressure over the midfoot. We're going to take the top half of the pelvis and subtly tuck that back in space. As we do that, we should have the cranium, rib cage, and pelvis in a nice stacked position. And we should feel a very similar feeling that we felt when we did the exercise laying down. Then from here, we're going to maintain all that, but we hinge back at the hip and maintain that pressure in the midfoot. We'll inhale back, sinking those hips back, maintaining cranium, rib cage, and pelvis in a stacked position. Then exhale, imagining pulling your sit bones down towards your heels to return to the starting position. Inhale back, moving just at the hip, and then exhale to return. Now what you want to watch out for here is not arching your back and tilting your pelvis forward as you're moving into that hinged position. So what we're not looking for is this. We don't want rib cage coming forward, back arching or pelvis tipping forward. Instead, we want to establish that subtle pelvic tilt to start to get us into neutral with pressure in the midfoot. Then we're going to move just at the hip, maintaining that relationship between rib cage, spine, and pelvis. Inhaling back, then exhaling to return. Now, like we said, an anterior pelvic tilt is simply a force production strategy to get force into the ground. So once we have an idea of how to position the body, we need to start to add some weight so that we can get changes that will actually stick. A great way to do this is with a kettlebell deadlift variation. So to perform this activity, you're going to hold the deadlift in front of you with two hands. Then you're going to do that same subtle tuck of the pelvis where the top half of the pelvis moves back relative to the bottom half, and the majority of the weight is through the midfoot. You're going to have that cranium, rib cage, and pelvis all stacked, and maintain that as you move primarily at the hip, inhaling as you go back, then exhaling as you pull the sit bones down towards the heels to return to the start. Inhale back, exhale to return. Inhale back, maintaining the stack, pressure in the midfoot, exhale to return. And again, the same mistakes can be made with this activity as were made with the other activity. So no anterior pelvic tilt, no back arching, and no rib cage translating forward in space. So now that you've learned how to assess for anterior pelvic tilt and how to do the exercises to correct it, I bet you're wondering how often you should be doing these exercises. Now there's no hard and fast rule here, but a good place to start would be doing these daily for about 6 to 8 weeks. Now in terms of sets, I do about 2 to 3 sets of each and about 8 to 15 reps. Now it should be said that you're going to do these based on your tolerance and your ability to do these with high quality precision. It's better to do these exercises correctly rather than just going through the motions of doing the repetitions, because the technique here is going to make all the difference between actually being able to get the changes you want and just wasting your time. Now with that being said, you're also going to have to take into account how you're going to track your progress throughout this 6 to 8 week period. So again, we went through those 2 tests to determine if you have the anterior pelvic tilt. Those should be getting better as you go through the 6 to 8 week period. And a good interval to check on this is at least once a week. If you want, you could even check on this before and after each exercise session, but just bear in mind that sometimes this can put pressure on the situation and make you do these in a way where you're not actually present to how you're doing the activities. So if you're someone that tends to put too much pressure on yourself when you're doing exercises, you want to take a kinder and gentler approach, check just at a once a week kind of an interval. And when you're doing these, focus on doing them in an effortless and calm way, and pay attention to what you're feeling in your body. Now, as you're going through these exercises, there are a couple of common issues that come up, and we're just going to go through these one at a time. So the first one is going to be hamstring cramping. And if that's happening, then you're probably overdoing that tuck of your pelvis. So go back to that first exercise, work on getting that tuck to be a little bit more subtle. And the other thing that can contribute to this as well is not having even foot pressure. So if you're missing contact, especially in the inner part of your foot, you're going to want to check that foot pressure, do those activities again, and I think you're going to find those hamstrings start to behave themselves. And then another common question that you might have is, what if I'm not feeling it in the right muscles? Now, without going on a huge tangent here, I just want you to realize that feeling sensation does not equal doing it right or wrong. That's why we have these objective measurements. So if you're not feeling it in the glutes and the hamstrings, that's totally fine. What you actually might find throughout this 6 to 8 week period is that the sensation you get during the exercise actually changes. So instead of driving yourself crazy and chasing one sensation or the other sensation, just focus on the cues and doing the exercise correctly. Focus on the way you're doing the exercise in terms of approaching it in a calm and relaxed way, and use those tests to determine if you're on the right track. And if you want to take it to the next level to move and feel better by applying the principles of posture, positioning, and breathing, then go down to the link in the description and apply to be a member of my brand new group movement coaching program. It's going to be launching in July. We're going to be talking about all sorts of cool things, including posture, asymmetry, breathing, and how to design the perfect program that's going to help you unlock and maintain mobility while progressing strength so you can get back to the activities you love. And if you're not a good fit for this, but you still want some help moving and feeling better, consider taking my Breathwork Breakthrough 7-Day Challenge, now available for only $5 by applying the coupon code that's just below the link in the description. All right, guys, so as always, thanks a lot for watching this video. Until next time, peace.